Good afternoon. I'm Delyn. This is my first History 701 discussion board thread. Since I could remember, prisoners of war have held a special place in my heart. The primary reason for that is probably the fact that two of my third great grandfathers had actually been prisoners of war during the Civil War. One survived from Hart's Island, the other unfortunately died at Rock Island. It is their stories that shape the direction of my dissertation. So, with that said, this discussion board will be about prisoners of war during the Civil War. Due to the controversial nature, however, of the topic, not many Civil War historians choose to actually write about it. It isn't until the most recent 5 to 10 years that actual books have been produced on Civil War prisoners and their experiences, and they are now being produced from various angles, from geography to emotional to sensory. It's a really unique niche. Unfortunately, though, because of the fact that there is very few dissertations actually written, it means that dissertations are also going to be limited. A cursory search produced at minimum 4 dissertations, with each individual taking a different approach from the others. Two of such dissertations, one by Angela Zombeck, completed at the University of Florida in 2012, examines the 19th century civilian penitentiaries and compares them to the origination of military prisons. The other, by Charles Sanders Jr., explores the relationship between the failure of the prisons to provide adequate food, clothing, and shelter, not as a misappropriation of resources, but as a direct result of the leadership of both the Union and the Confederacy. Looking a little deeper at Angela Zombeck, her argument and conclusion maintains solidly throughout her entire dissertation that the idea that military prisons and civilian penitentiaries are intertwined, and as such shows the influence that the government actually has over punishment. In her final couple statements, she actually made the statement that understanding this would allow future historians to look at the evolution of the prison system as a whole. Her resources for this particular dissertation range from various primary source documents such as newspapers, family papers, papers of governors, senators, congressmen, along with documents from the National Archives. She also got a lot of her resources from the Library of Virginia. She also reuses military newspapers as well as various secondary sources, but doesn't lean as heavily on them. Turning to the next dissertation, Charles Sanders Jr.'s argument and ultimate conclusion states that it was not organizational incompetence and the absence or misappropriation of resources, but instead it was the decision of Confederate and Union leadership that inevitably led to the horrific outcome for those imprisoned in prison or war camps on either side. He too also draws from a plethora of primary source material, especially diaries of those held within the prisons, and um, the War of the Rebellion records as well, where it's got all the different orders and letters back and forth between leaders and their generals out in the field or commanders of the prison camps themselves. And so that is what he uses to ultimately draw his conclusion. This is but two approaches to understanding the prisoner of war experience during the Civil War, and there is more to come. Thank you.